Hello and welcome to Star Trek Wars Picard Edition. The penultimate episode of Picard is upon us. I'm your co-host Jordan. Joining me today, it's Joselyn. And Joselyn, the summary of this episode brings up some major questions as to why Dr. Crusher doesn't have a cameo this week. Here's what it says. Picard must face the ghosts of his past.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, of his past. When he and the crew are attacked by a new incarnation of an old enemy, Seven and Rafi must face Jurati in a final showdown. And we're, of course, discussing Picard Season 2, Episode 9, Hide and Seek. It's written by Matt Akamura and Chris Derrick, directed by Michael Weaver. Jocelyn, second to last episode.
Yes.
We have 1 week to go to somewhat wrap up this season.
Right.
What were your first impressions for this episode?
Well, Jordan, I'm going to have you close your eyes and count to 5. And then you're going to have to come find my first impressions.
Okay, well. I'm not doing that.
You don't think 5 seconds is enough time for me to hide them?
No, but you did just like bring back an old memory of a game we used to play. Oh. It kind of ties into this beginning, which is Ghost in the Graveyard. Do you remember playing that?
I do remember Ghost in the Graveyard. Wait, this was an outside game.
Yes, we'd start at the big tree on the front porch, and someone would hide somewhere around the house, and you had to make it all the way around the yard, around the house, back to the tree without basically the hider, the ghost, coming and tagging you.
And attacking you, and yes, that was a very anxious game for me.
I don't remember attacking. We might have played a different game.
It was so scary. Wow, I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Yeah, me neither.
Okay. All right. Fits with the kind of creepy vibe of this episode.
We also had a basement. So
it's true. Yeah, very creepy, very large basement.
But we were allowed to go down there. We were often sent down there.
Yeah, we were sent to the basement a lot, to be fair. We'll
be visiting the basement later, so it's
a very different basement, but still. I really liked this one. I know you mentioned, we were talking a moment ago, that there are some problems, and I can't wait to find out because I just enjoyed watching it, honestly. I really did. And I don't want that spoiled for me, but at the same time, go ahead and spoil it for me. But yeah, I liked it. It was fun. It was, I don't know, everybody was involved. Everybody was in the episode, which is kind of my main thing when I watch. I want to see all the characters that I like. So yeah, this was a very enjoyable watch for me.
Well, Jocelyn, are you a gallon of milk that's about to... Well, I don't know where I'm going with that. I was about to say, are you a gallon of milk that was purchased a week ago? Because you're about to be spoiled. But I kind of botched it. Anyways, I got a lot of milk jokes. But I'm going to go into my first impressions and say that I did enjoy watching this episode more than probably the past 3. It was enjoyable, had some cool moments. But I think this had some more negative impact to the overall dynamics of certain characters and situations than the previous episodes. The previous episodes were kind of filler and a little boring at times.
Yeah.
But they didn't do a whole lot. This episode does more, but I didn't really like some of the things that it was doing. So
I see.
To be as vague as possible, we'll move into pros and we'll discuss a little further. So you liked it. What did you like about it?
Okay, pros. I liked that it started right into it. It was not a slow start to the episode. We're right into it with everybody's doing something. Everyone's going somewhere. We've got people with guns from the start. It's a lot of action going on. So I liked that because I feel like some of the episodes this season don't start that way. It's a really slow start. And then it speeds up somewhere in the episode, usually towards the end. But then we have a lot of filler. I know Picard had a lot of flashbacks this episode, but that's how I would have preferred all of his flashbacks to be rather than kind of what we got in previous episodes. So that didn't actually bother me because we found out what happened with his mom, which is what we were kind of wondering, what happened. So I liked that it all started out with a bang. Girardi gets a cool new outfit, which I really liked. I think she looked pretty good in that outfit. I would wear that outfit, when the occasion calls for it. Like when I was trying to take over, I don't know, whatever corner of the world I'm in at the moment, which is possible. I also liked the thing they did, like, at first you thought they just gave her kind of like these purple black veins, but they looked like the pattern on a computer chip. Did you notice that? That was cool.
I noticed it more on the guy's face, like when she assimilated him, like It was a little different. Versus the typical Borg where it is just like gross, like your veins just like
just look
protruding.
Gross. Yeah. It's a look. It's a definite look. But she pulls it off. I liked her in that outfit. I just loved her in this episode. Just totally. They found a way to bring Elnor back by making him a hologram, the emergency combat hologram, which I think is new. It's a bit of a stretch, but I wasn't sad to see him back, so it's a pro for me. Because
we kind of see it in the first or second episode with Seven turns on Emitter or whatever, and he's fighting the bad guys.
Oh, is that the emergency combat hologram?
Kinda. I mean, he's like one iteration of the holograms. I think they've used that terminology before. They've actually, Robert Picardo, the Doctor's character, was the emergency command hologram in Tinker Tailor Doctor Spy, which is an episode
where he gets to be captain.
Yes, there's like this very unique situation in which they're watching the Doctor's daydreams and they think that he's the captain of the ship, and that Voyager has this secret cannon weapon that can obliterate planets, but they don't realize they're seeing like the Doctor's dreams because he's playing with having dreams. And so when they encounter Voyager, there's like this agent that's like contacting him, is like, hey, we need your help. And then he has to convince his commander that he's the Doctor, and Janeway has to go along, or that he's the captain. Janeway has to go along with it and let the Doctor like live out this fantasy in real life.
Oh my God.
It's hilarious.
I have to watch this.
It's very good. I think it's season 6.
I'll have to go back and watch that, because emergency holograms, just generally speaking, I enjoy like everything that they do. Very pro hologram. We finally get a Voyager reference when Seven says that, Janeway tried to help her join Starfleet after Voyager and they wouldn't let her, which I don't buy for a second. I think they would take one look at Seven and be like, you can do whatever you want, because that's just the world that we were living in the mid 2000s, or early 2000s, whenever that was. I mean,
she lives in the 24th century.
I know. I just feel like Jerry Ryan can do whatever she wants, anywhere, ever. The doc, Teresa, I think is her name. She finally uses the tricorder. I was very excited. Now, what does it do? It gives like a weird green rendering of Rios with like a red. Oh, there's an injury right here. Yeah, and it's like, okay, yeah, duh.
I think there's a Jerry Seinfeld bit about that. What's the deal with these commercials? Like,
what's the deal with these tricorders?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, still a pro for me. The biggest pro, though, in this episode, I loved having Talon back, not Laris back, but that, in general, I loved having her back. And then more on that in my cons. So, my biggest pro is the thing with Girardi and the Borg Queen, and how that played out, where she kind of convinced her that like there's like a way to be in charge and have a following essentially through fear and coercion. And then there's a way to do it where you invite people as part of the group and they're fighting for you, but also for themselves. And, loyalty is a lot more binding than fear. I thought that was cool. I liked the exchange. I thought it was very Girardi. And they're basically a celebrity couple now. So we need to choose a name. And the 2 celebrity couple names I've come up with are Barati and Jorg. So either one of those is fine. I don't know which one I like.
I'll think
better.
on it.
Yeah,
we'll do
think on that.
poll.
You let me know which one that you like better.
Perfect.
Those are my top pros, pretty much. Neutral zone wise, the relationship between Picard and his mother is problematic for me. I think telling your 8, 9, 10-year-old, I don't know how old children are. By looking at them, I really can't tell. They're weird. But telling your young child, you're my light, only you can save me is like maybe not the best thing to do, and maybe a way to traumatize your child for life.
Well, she is mentally ill in some capacity.
Yes, in some capacity, I get that. But also very confused as to what her specific diagnosis is. You know, because
I think it's just a vague representation of mental illness as a whole, basically.
yeah, so that's more a con for me. It's like we need to really stop portraying mental health in this way, where it's just very, like you said, vague and generally involves women who look sad and who place like way too much emotional responsibility on their children. Not cool. Also, counting to 5 for hide and seek is objectively not enough. Not enough.
I think you start at 10 and then maybe go up from there, depending on the size of the room, the darkness level,
10 is
the age of the children.
Baseline. Yeah. And you make them count backwards because it takes them longer. That's the trick. That's the only way that I know how to trick children. So anyway, those are pretty much my pros, unless I randomly remember something while you're talking. But what are yours?
So the actress that plays Loris, do you know how old she is? If you had to guess a number.
If I had to guess a number, I mean, okay, all right. I think she's older than me. I'll be 40 in July, so she's probably 45, 47.
She's 61 years old.
Get out of town.
Yeah, and I wouldn't I don't
get in your car and drive straight out of town. What are you talking about?
Car, that's interesting you brought that up. My car engine exploded, Joselyn. So that's what was wrong with my car, in case anyone was keeping tabs. Apparently, PSA, if you have a 2013 or 2014 Hyundai Sonata or a Kia vehicle, you with a 2.0 or 2.4 GDI engine, you may get a free engine because there's a massive recall of about 470,000 vehicles of engines that were built in Atlanta, Georgia in that time frame.
Because they're exploding?
They're, catching fire and or exploding or just generally seizing up and are crap. So
are you okay?
I may get
Did
a new
it explode
engine.
While you were in it?
It smoked, but it did not explode. So in about 2 weeks, I'll find out if I get a free engine or if I pay a percentage. So anyways.
Wow.
In another piece of news, the actress that plays Talon, also 61 years old.
Also, she's on fire as well.
Yes.
She is
like
smoking.
A Hyundai engine. She is smoking.
Like a 2013 Hyundai engine that was built in Atlanta, Georgia. She's smoking.
There's a very specific level of smoke. Yeah. I was just shocked by that. Someone was like, she's like, if you had said like 51, I'd be like, wow, that's incredible. But like 61, that's like good on you, Lars. But like the reason I was looking at it is because I was looking at the age difference because obviously her and Picard are gonna hook up at some point.
Yeah, that was creeping me out.
I was thinking of the age difference between, because we kind of made fun of this in Tapestry because it was weird. It's a flashback where Picard is living out his life. It's kind of like the A Christmas Story, where he goes back to the time he got stabbed by a Nausicaan in a bar and he's dating a girl at the academy. So he's, in his early 20s, late teens, but his age at that time, he's played by Patrick Stewart. So like he's seeing himself as how he sees him. Everyone else is seeing him how he looked then. But the actor is Patrick Stewart kissing an actress who is like 19, 20, or 21, however old she was. So we're like, that's awkward and creepy and weird. But like in this instance, I'm wondering if the age difference is even more substantial. Because Sir Patrick Stewart's like 83, 84. So it's 20-something years. It doesn't really matter at that point, and I don't really care. But it was just, I was like, that's interesting. So anyways, I did some research, and that's what I came up with.
Very interesting. I want someone to buy me a cameo, and all I want her to talk about during the cameo is her skincare routine.
No kidding.
So I'm just putting that out into the universe.
Yeah, I'll see if she's on Cameo. Picard using his hide and seek skills. I thought that was good. Seeing an old man try to hide in it, but he doesn't really hide though. I don't know if this is a pro. Like he really just walks through the tunnels. Like I haven't been down here since 60. Was it 65? I can't remember.
Yeah, they're not hiding at all. They're not moving.
He's just
fast.
telling stories. I don't know how they don't catch him sooner.
Because he keeps forgetting why he's down there.
Yeah.
I walk into the next room and I'm like, why did I come in here? I can't imagine how that's going to be when I'm in my 90s. And I walk into my creepy basement at my chateau and I'm like, what? Now, what am I doing? Oh, yeah. Dr. Soong and Borg soldiers are after me.
I don't know how they found that key. I want a secret passage in my house. Though I've always had this fantasy of like building a home and having a bookshelf that like opens up like a door. And then I have like my man cave or like my Star Trek room or whatever room it is. Just like a man cave room that's like kind of hidden, but not ridiculous, but like a sliding bookshelf or something of that nature. Just what else am I going to do with a bookshelf? Like put books on it? No.
That'd be weird, yeah.
They'd be false books, yeah. We did get some 7 Voyager backstory, which I thought was good and could have been fleshed out a little bit more because I'm interested in her backstory, and all they seem to say is like, she's a ranger now.
Yeah.
But it's like, why is she not in Starfleet? Why did she not take the obvious path?
How did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah, a flashback would have been cool, which they could have done. Like, they're not showing us the flashbacks we want to see. Instead of showing us like a Kate Mulgrew cameo of Captain Janeway talking to Starfleet Command about 7 of 9.
I would die. It would be amazing. Instead,
we're getting a flashback of Picard playing hide and seek with his mother in the chateau basement, which, like, you know, one is not like the other.
Yeah.
I feel Michelle Hurd is given a lot more to do this week. So I felt her performance was much better. We finally get kind of that Elnor interaction that
we've closure moment
been alluding to. Kind of, yes, but
kind of.
I have some issues with that.
Yeah,
I think probably one of the best moments of the episode, the strongest moment, is when after 7 is stabbed and the Borg Queen basically gives her life back and all her implants come back so that she can live. Like Picard sees her for the first time and she obviously looks different because she has her ocular implant and all that stuff, and he just asks 7 if she's all right because he knows probably better than anyone like the trauma that she is going through in that moment, having been assimilated himself. So I thought it was probably the strongest moment in the episode between the two of them. Neutral zone wise, we get Elnor. He gets something to do, but it's holographic Elnor. In Raffi, I wrote this down. I saw holographic Elnor. He shows up as the ECH. I wrote, Raffi is going to freak out when she sees him before it actually happened. So it happened. Yeah. She didn't really freak out. I thought she was going to be like, oh, it's Elnor. And then he says, I'm a hologram, which is kind of what happened. But she didn't like have a mental break. She's like, oh, well, I just need to talk to you about my feelings. And he's like, oh, good, because I understand exactly how you're feeling, because all Elnor's memories are in me, even though I'm just a holographic representation of Elnor. And I don't know how I got. Yeah, they took the
time to like transfer his consciousness, which I guess then I didn't think about that. Why can't he just stick around?
He may. That's why it's kind of
as a hologram.
Maybe he's got a mobile emitter on his shoulder, so he can go wherever the heck he wants.
Well,
like the doctor did.
I have questions about this in my cons.
Okay, yeah, that's weird to me. I don't know. I think there's probably going to be a way that they bring Elnor back.
They have to.
They kind of gave him closure to an extent here with the Raffi characters. I don't know what they're doing here.
I don't know who's coming back at this point.
It's just a weird thing to do now because basically someone could die and anyone can you can make a hologram of them with their memories, basically. So I don't know. That just opens up a weird door. And I don't know how, if they'd shown a flashback of Eleanor implanting his memories into the computer in case something happens to him, maybe I buy it, but that doesn't happen. So how, anyway. It's kind of the same thing they did with Picard last season. It's like, we'll just give him a new body because his sucks. But it'll be an old body that's the same as the one he has. Like, it'd be like if I had a 2013 Hyundai Sonata and the dealership is like, hey, your car sucks, but we'll give you a brand new used 2013 Hyundai Sonata. And it's like, what? I don't want the same car I have because the engine blew up. Anyways, I'm a little salty right now. Nothing says Starfleet teamwork quite like an officer and a former officer forcing a knife into a man's skull.
That was pretty hardcore.
It's a little hardcore, and they've got this man subdued.
Yeah.
And like Rafi, that's the first thing Rafi and Seven have done together this season, other than just completely bitch at each other. So it's weird that like their moment together this season of like teamwork and camaraderie is forcing a knife into a man's face.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
they're gonna tell this story to their children.
Couples that kill together.
When did you
still together?
Yeah. Tell us again how you met Mommy. Well, dear.
Yeah, you really need to work on your child skills.
I do?
Yeah, those are stories kids tell kids, right? Is that
not an appropriate story to tell a child? Oh,
tell me about the war, grandfather.
It's teamwork. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness. My last neutral zone is the two Renees thing that kind of they dropped the bomb at the end that there's two Renees. And then Picard's just like, well, that doesn't mean anything. Like, I refuse to believe that. Like, whoa. Okay,
so
like,
that was weird, yeah. At first weird, I was like, well, his brother Renee dies in a horrific fire that he chooses not to time travel back to save them. Or was it his brother Renee or his nephew?
Robert, I believe. His nephew, I believe, is also named Renee,
and Renee.
if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, horrible fire. And you know what? As an engine, a spaceship. Hopefully Hyundai did not build that engine because Renee could also die in a horrible fire.
Oh, no. I think I got a letter in the
mail
the engine
about built
a
in Georgia?
On 2013 La Serenas.
Oh, no. Maybe they hosed the Borg Queen. Maybe that ship's just going to explode. They're just like, yeah, okay.
There we go.
How far you get.
They're like, yeah, let her take this ship. It's a ticking time bomb anyway.
Oh, my goodness. So I guess we can talk after we go through our cons and fan comments about maybe our theories on two Renees and what that means and how they're going to
because I have a theory, and it's almost certainly wrong, but
I had a couple theories, but yes.
All right.
Oh, man. Well, shall we get into our cons? Jocelyn?
Let's get into the cons. I do not understand why Barati or Jorg, whichever we're calling her now, why her soldiers were shooting at a hologram, thinking that they were going to wound the hologram.
Well, they don't.
If Eleanor's
know
a
what
hologram
is, to be fair.
Well, sure, but he can't be harmed.
He has a mobile emitter though, so if that gets shot, because I thought the same thing. But that patch on his shoulder, that's what helps him move about the ship. So if that gets shot, then his program.
Okay. Follow-up question then. Why does he need a mobile emitter to exist within the bounds of the ship? I know the doctor on Voyager needed it to leave the sick bay, but Voyager's a huge ship. And the La Serena, as far as I can figure out, is like an apartment in comparison. So,
well, the only places on the ship that have holo emitters are the holodeck, and then in Voyager, the medical area, because they had a doctor, and he didn't really need to leave the medical facility typically. But then in Future's End, they get this technology from the future, bring it back, and he gets the mobile emitter, so he can go wherever. And I'm assuming that the La Serena, they just use the mobile emitter because it's cheaper and less expensive than putting emitters all over your ship. I don't know.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's just kind of most ships, I guess, don't have emitters built in because it's more of like a cargo ship than an actual Federation flagship.
I see.
I would think
I
most
see.
new Starfleet ships would have emitters on every part of the ship, but
Right. Yeah, I wasn't feeling the urgency considering.
yeah, I don't know why he's running, because he's got
Yeah.
a sword and he can be shot through. So
Right.
if bullets go through me, I'm not running.
Right. I know a lot of shows, a lot of movies do this, where the bad guy, instead of like running, like there's a sense of urgency to catch their prey, just like walk and take their sweet ass time, which I felt like Sung and the Borg soldiers were doing. They find the bookcase. It's pretty obvious, that it slides, which, by the way, when we build our secret podcast studio, man, woman, person cave that we're building anyway behind our bookshelf, let's make sure it doesn't scrape the floor, because I feel like that's a design flaw.
Definitely. There's
And
too many
let's
books
make
on that shelf.
Yeah. Let's make sure whatever it is we turn or pull or push to like move it out of the way resets once we enter in to the space. That's, I think, also very important. Dead giveaway if your fleur-de-lis is upside down when someone comes to, follow you through the bookcase. So, but it wasn't just at the bookcase and he's like taking his time and then he slides it and he's like, I'm a smart guy, huh? And then they finally like mosey on down to the basement. And then they're in the basement. Picard and Talon escape through a doorway and they're like, well, that's the way they went. I guess we'll casually walk through. Like, it was just like, are you chasing someone or not?
To be fair, in horror movies, they're usually chasing like young 20-something-year-olds.
It's true.
So they're pretty spry, and it's like, this does not make sense.
And it's like someone with a limp and a hatchet.
Yeah.
You're like...
You're chasing a 93-year-old man in a dark, dusty basement who can't remember where he is.
Okay.
And is having flashbacks. So there's
that's
not
fair.
really... Yeah.
He's going to stop for a flashback once he rounds the corner.
Exactly.
So
you've got time,
that's a really good point.
Why break a sweat?
Right. I feel like they have set up the finale to be void of our new Borg celebrity couple. And I'm really sad about that. Like, I don't understand how we're going to do a finale without Girardi / Borg Queen.
Well, at least not in the current timeline.
Are they like teasing us? Like, are they going to come back and like save the day? Or also, why'd they take off? Like, you have to start your saving of all civilizations like right now? Or maybe could you help your friends, fulfill the mission? That was weird. Like, where are you going?
Yeah. That is weird. It's almost like it's a plot hole.
It's almost like it's a huge, gaping, really, really disappointing plot hole, because the best thing you have going for you as a season 2 of Picard is Girardi / Borg Queen. And then you're just going to send them off into the sunset? Not a good idea.
Literally into the sunset.
I mean, literally. They rode off into the sunset.
Around the sunset.
Yeah, exactly. I don't get that choice, I guess. And I would not have made the same choice, I feel. And maybe they're like joking us. I don't know. I don't like riddles like one Renee has to die and one can live. And I just don't like when there's a vague riddle in the episode just before the final episode.
Alex Kurtzman only writes in vague riddles, so.
But like, doesn't he usually introduce them like earlier in a season though?
I don't know. I'm fine with new things coming up in the show so long as you've answered some previous questions. Yeah. But the pacing of the season has been
puzzling. Of the season has been strange, and I got to tell you, this episode felt like the finale. I'm a little nervous for the finale. It just doesn't
tie enough up because now they have so much to do in the finale too, which is what they do every year with this.
They have
type
to
of
make sure
story.
this chick gets on a spaceship. I don't think it's that much to do. Like, just like get your job done. Also, Rios like leaving the dock. Like, I get that they haven't spent that much time together, but he was just like, she was like, I want you to stay. Like, why can't this be a thing? And he's just like, yeah, I thought about it, and like, it's just not going to work. And then he was like, poof, gone. That seems hurried.
Abrupt. I don't know that Rios is just going to leave her and her son in some apartment with a magic door. Like, I think that storyline is not finished.
Of course, but like, you need to say that. Also Rios, he just can't help himself sometimes, but she's literally a doctor. And he's like, yeah, your son's in shock. You need to lay him down and cover him with a blanket. And it's like, excuse me, sir, are you, one, a doctor, or two, a parent? No. Okay, maybe you don't say those things to a mother who is a board-certified physician.
Did you say Borg? Did you?
Ooh!
Do you know what his son needs, Jocelyn, to calm his nerves? A cigar.
You know what?
That's parenting 101.
He just needs to go outside on the balcony and enjoy a nice stogie, maybe a half stogie, because he is kind of young.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is why I would not trust Rios with a child at this point. He needs a lot of education before that happens. Those are basically my cons. There's other little things, but that's it. That's like overall the things I'm most irritated or disappointed by.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I was not exactly. You said this episode starts off with a bang. I was not exactly buying the epic showdown between, this huge showdown we've been waiting for between Picard and jocks in leather jackets. Like, that was not exactly like Borgs in leather jackets.
Fair.
What? I don't need to hear also the Borg Queen saying bullshit. Like, that's also weird.
Oh, was that weird to hear?
The new Star Trek show is just like, let's have someone in the future say a curse word. Like, they just think
it's once an episode.
Absolutely. Every episode.
It's very strange. Yeah. It's a little jarring.
There's also a scene, like, speaking of jocks and leather jackets, where this guy is shining his laser pointer in the window as if it's like a flashlight. Like, what is that even going to do?
That was weird. It was like, are you not allowed to get inside the house, or do you just not know how?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's not only if there was windows and doors.
Right.
Interrupting.
If only it was a rundown building, you could literally just like kick your way through the walls.
Yes. If only they were like superhumans.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Cybernetically enhanced. There's also like this interrupting the tense scenes for a child playing hide and seek is not great. I feel like that whole Picard backstory could have been tackled in an episode or two.
For sure.
Instead of being absolutely a huge plot point for the whole season. We're just getting like a very short scene and then almost a whole episode about it. And now we're still going into that in the middle of a chase scene with the universe hinging in like upon everything. I don't know. Teresa, you said she was the tricorder, but she's using tech still from almost 500 years in the future without any experience. If you hand her a dermal regenerator, which you just hold the button and wave it over a wound and it heals it, I get that. But not sure like what a tricorder is going to do for a bullet wound. She can obviously
she was pushing buttons on it too.
Yeah, she knows where the bullet went in. There's
very
a big
clear
visual reference as to where the hole is. There's no exit wound, so the bullet's right
go in
there
here.
somewhere. Yes.
And then like the tricorder, the screen she was looking at, it wasn't like it was like a magnified area that showed tissue and bone and where the bullet was lodged. It was just like a green outline of Rios with like
ad
red
for a pain medicine that targets this specific area of your body.
Yeah, it's like, okay, thanks, tricorder. We knew that.
I think my biggest con in this entire episode is Agnes bringing back essentially Unimatrix 01 and her talking to this Borg queen about how the Borg continually fail because they're lonely.
Yeah, but do they fail though?
I mean,
that was weird to me. I mean, in this timeline they do, but like,
I get in Voyager where Janeway makes a deal with the devil, but in that episode in Scorpion Part 1, like, Species 8472 is a huge threat to the Borg and is wiping them out, and Janeway has essentially the weapon that they need to keep them at bay and send them back to where they came from. So, like, she has something. Agnes has nothing to offer the Borg Queen other than to say, you're lonely, you should do the exact opposite of what you're doing and give your drone's individuality, which is something that's come up in Trek with Hugh before, with Unimatrix 01 many times, and the Borg Queen's not having that. I completely cannot buy the fact that the Borg Queen in one conversation is going to be like, yeah, you know what? I should just change everything I'm doing. It's like going to your manager that's been a manager for 50 years, like, you know how you manage? You should probably manage this way instead. And you know what they're going to do?
That's not happening.
Not that.
But at the same time, Jurati and the Borg Queen spent a lot of time together. Very intimate time. They're literally in each other's minds.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe
a couple sentences of that conversation, though. Like, if you are planting the seeds this whole time,
right,
and that Borg Queen has failed a bunch, which, you know, arguably the Borg have failed on numerous occasions, but they're doing all right.
Again, this is a Borg Queen, though, from a timeline where the Borg have been wiped out.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be something in her mind that she would know. But she is saying, like, we have a leap on this now. Like, I have so much time to undo this.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it doesn't
Jurati's
matter. She has a ship. She can time travel anywhere she wants and assimilate. She can start assimilating them right then and there and start.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's exactly what she would probably do.
But Jurati I don't changed her.
Yeah, I don't want the sympathetic Borg. I don't. Like, I love Darth Vader. Darth Vader's a great villain. I don't need... Yeah. I mean, it'd be as dumb as doing a prequel trilogy about Darth Vader as, like, a boy, and then maybe as a teen, and then he kills children, and you're like, oh, we should sympathize with this guy. Like, that sounds like a terrible idea. Unless, like, maybe if they got Natalie Portman to be in it, because she's a great actress.
Then I'd watch. Yes, she is.
Brent Spiner also, it's kind of neutral, kind of con. He's just hamming it up, and it's not great. He's just like, I'm going to get you, Picard. He's just like smug and has a leather jacket on and is just walking like you mentioned.
Yeah,
and
the classic he's sign of a Star Trek villain.
Yes, and he's like,
I have a leather jacket.
Total baddie that's stalking a 93-year-old man through a basement. Like, there's nothing. They're trying to make him look like
himself.
Cool.
Yeah.
And he's not. He's a scientist. He's not. It's like, I keep thinking of Mark Wahlberg. I'm a scientist. Like,
oh, God.
Mark.
Wow. Reference from one of the worst movies Mark Wahlberg has ever been in.
He's in a lot of them.
He's in a lot of worse movies. That's true.
Elnor, hologram MacGuffin. I kind of talked about it earlier. I don't buy how they did it. I know they had to have this closure, I guess, with Rafi if they're not going to bring him back, but I think that they are, so I'm not sure what that scene serves or how he can emotionally connect as being a hologram that shouldn't have any memories without any explanation as to why he does have them. Also, why would a gun with a safety that can't be fired by the person who is not a DNA match for it explode after them holding it for a few seconds? It is completely useless to them.
In the world's smallest explosion ever.
Yes. And then why would you then tell said villain, well, if you hold it too long, it'll explode in your hand? Like, I don't know, maybe let it explode in his hand?
Instead of warning him?
But the spry 60-something-year-old man has the time to throw it in there and then disappear without like, whoa, where'd he go? Like I don't know, a foot around the corner because he's a 63-year-old man who can't even be bothered to go faster than a walk or a saunter when he's chasing someone. And his future depends on it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. This leads to my second to last con. I normally start with this, but would you believe the Paramount Plus app is not in my pros this week because it had for about 10 minutes, the episode had constant stuttering, and it would like flash to a pink screen that flashed.
What? I didn't get that at all.
Yeah, it did not make me re-sign in this week, which was amazing.
Yeah,
for the
same.
first
It
time
fixed
in, like,
that
6
problem.
weeks.
But now
yeah,
it sounds like it's got this other problem.
And it was not my connection because I have fiber.
Yeah, no.
It's very fast.
It's
I streamed
the
other
same
things.
connection as ever.
Yes. And for some reason, I almost had to stop the episode because it was very, like every 10 seconds, it would just flash, stutter, and then the screen would turn pink, and I couldn't see anything, and it would go back.
Exciting.
So, yeah, it was not enjoyable. So get your stuff together, Paramount. And then lastly, 7 of all people who knows what the Borg are capable of, and the Queen in particular, underestimating the Queen and just standing there, like talking to her, like, oh yeah, we've got you, like completely underestimates her and stands, no less than 5 feet from her, knowing that she has tentacles that come out of her back that stab through things and people.
Yeah.
That was disappointing. And I
was
thought
very
for a brief
disappointing.
moment that they might kill 7. And I would have been very upset.
You actually thought they would kill 7?
I did. Yes.
Wow.
For a brief moment. I mean, they've killed a lot of beloved characters. Like Icheb, Elnor.
Kinda.
They kind of killed Picard.
They don't
last
really
season.
kill people in this show, though.
Narissa? I mean, come on.
Narissa.
Ancestral Romulan baddie from last season.
Yeah, I don't know if I would call her beloved.
By her brother.
I mean, that's true. Super, super beloved by her brother.
Oh man, that's
Wow.
that's most of my cons. I
Forgot
just
about
feel like I
that.
said, this episode does more than the previous episodes, but there's still a lot to do. And I'm assuming we're probably heading for cliffhanger territory because they film season 2 and 3 at pretty much the same time. And then another huge con is they like an interview with Rafi, and she talks about next season, how she's enjoying like shooting with the new cast and the TNG cast that she grew up watching. It's like, I don't want to hear this crap until the season's over, because now there's absolutely no drama around the fact that this character could die or anything's going to happen to her that's negative. We know this is all going to be resolved, which we kind of know anyways, but the stakes are just like super low. It's disappointing that they're already talking. I don't know if season 2 is doing badly or something, that they feel like they have to push season 3 already. I've never seen a show push their next season before the current season is even halfway done. Like, they already started talking about, we're bringing back the cast for season 3, and we weren't even halfway through this season. It's just
kind of
very
spoiling some things for us.
big time. So that's just personally, that's just not something I've enjoyed this season. But something I do enjoy, Jocelyn, is this podcast I've been listening to. It's called Star Trek Wars, and they review every episode of Star Trek. All the live action shows. No, even the cartoons. Every episode of Star Trek ever has been reviewed on this podcast.
How do they do it?
I don't know. Over 300 episodes in 7+ years. And did you know they have a Facebook page?
What?
Yeah, facebookpage.com/group/Star Trek Wars. Super easy to find.
Wow, that is super easy to remember. Facebook page /Star Trek Wars.
That's exactly right. Also, at patreon.com, you can support them because of the God's work that they're doing. Patreon.com/ you guessed it, Star Trek Wars.
Star Trek Wars. Why wouldn't someone support them?
I don't know. And there's even exclusive content on there.
Wow.
That you can't hear on the main feed. And it's only a couple dollars a month. So
it's amazing.
In this economy.
Do you mean for just a price of a coffee, I could be listening to exclusive content?
I would say for half the price of a coffee, because have you had coffee recently? We're also on Twitter at the Star Trek. I mean, they're also on Twitter at the Star Trek Wars. And Jocelyn.
Yes.
We're like 4 days away from the premiere of Strange New Worlds.
I am excited about that.
Which they will be covering. And I can't wait.
What?
It's going to be awesome. We have, So yeah, I'll have 2 podcasts on the feed next week. Picard's finale and the series premiere of Strange New Worlds. They had the premiere in New York.
That's wild.
Over the weekend. and apparently it's good. We'll have to wait and see.
Apparently. Reputedly, it's not
That's
garbage.
what everybody's saying.
Okay. All right.
They can't be wrong.
Yeah.
But we do have a lot of comments this week to tackle. A lot of fan comments. So I think we should go into that. But first, shall we mosey on down to the basement?
Shall we mosey down to the basement? He doesn't want to go. This is also the sound. I believe this is actually a sound bite from when William Shatner found out they were doing a new Star Trek series without him.
Without him.
It was really hard. He didn't take it well.
You mean like
all right.
the 6 or 7 new shows that have come out since the original series?
Oh, every time. Every time he doesn't take it well. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a real struggle for him. So in the basement this week, there was a lot to choose from. Just people hated this episode. I don't quite get it. But this one in particular said the showrunners must hate Star Trek fans. More little boy tales from Patrick Stewart dealing with childhood anxieties. Whoever runs this show must hate Star Trek and its fans with a passion. It's the only reason I can come up with for the endless chain of awful writing, ignored lore, and utterly wasted characters. Now, to be fair, this 1-star reviewer does make a good point. They brought back Brent Spiner, and they did not bring back lore. And I can see now what he means by ignoring lore, because it's true. It's like we developed this evil android, and then we just abandon him, you know? When he's such a good baddie.
They are ignoring lore. I'll give them that.
They're ignoring lore. And I think that's really the root of the outrage being experienced by this person. They are just really into lore.
Imagine if lore had been taken over by the Borg Queen.
Right? How good / bad would that have been?
Brent Spiner with the Borg Queen in his head? Oh, man.
Right? Oh, man.
Move over, Allison Pill.
Exactly. We'd be calling that celebrity couple Beta.
Boar? Oh, sorry.
Or Boar. See, it works both ways. I think Beta is the best.
Probably.
Anyway, let's get out of here and claw our way out of the basement. If you could just like pull my foot. My foot seems to be stuck in this wooden stage, I guess, that was built for an old-timey band to play on. If you could just like pull it out.
Minstrels would play there, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So, yes. Great. Okay, we're on our way. Fan comments. Shall I start? Shall I begin?
Go ahead, kick us off.
All right, kicking off with Keith Danforth, and he says, for a penultimate episode, I was again a bit disappointed that there were more questions than answers. The Soong and the Board Commandos versus Picard and crew showdown was adequate, and Picard character's story finally reached its somewhat predictable tragic conclusion. Jurati finally asserted herself as Khaleesi of Borg. So now, what do we do with the final episode next
drones.
Week? Mother of drones. Breaker of blockchain.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, let's see here. So now what do we do with the final episode next week, which happens at the same time as the premiere of Strange New Worlds? I was a bit maddened by the riddle. To succeed, there must be 2 Renees, one who lives and one who dies. This almost certainly implies some dual universe timey-wimey bullshit, and I spent half of yesterday trying to suss out if what we've been watching this whole time was the mirror universe. But it occurred to me, especially after the season of Discovery with Tarka, that this could just be a different mirror universe, with the Confederation being a similar evil empire like the Terran Empire was in the OG. So now I'm wondering if what the riddle means is that Renee in this universe must die. So Renee in the canon universe lives? Perhaps there is no way to actually avoid Soong's rise to power and the formation of the Confederation in this universe. Raffi finally clutched out a win in this episode with her interactions with Seven and confession to ECH Elnor. It was well-deserved, especially when Seven was wounded. I kind of wish they finished up the Picard story a couple episodes sooner and spent this episode giving us answers, preferably through Q. It seems we're either heading for a Discovery ending or a classic to-be-continued season finale, setting up the third and final season where this crew and the TNG crew get to dance with the Borg 2.0, 7 Borg implants out of 9.
Oh, man. If the third season is just Picard running into all the characters from TNG in present day as ancestors of themselves instead of the actual characters, which I don't think they would do.
Oh, my God. Can you imagine?
Oh, Wayne Fraser says, I don't know what to make of the show anymore. I thought this episode was better than the last 3, and yet there were some baffling story arcs in this episode. I really, really liked how they portrayed Jurati as both the Borg Queen and her normal self. It allowed Jurati to take some semblance of control back, which directly addressed my criticism of how she had basically been cannon fodder for these past 2 seasons. But then the revelation that the Borg are the Borg simply because the Queen is lonely is ludicrous. And the solution, I think that was Akon that sang that song actually, not ludicrous, is to become an inclusive collective. We now know with certainty that when we return to the Stargazer, that it will be Jurati underneath the Borg helmet. As always, nice to see Elnor back, and if we can't reset the timeline so that he is resurrected, maybe we can keep him around as a hologram with a mobile emitter. Additionally, it allowed Raffi some light in her life. yeah, he's like her child.
Yeah.
Children are the light on her life. They're the only ones that can save us, Joselyn. She seems to be the most tormented character in all of Trek. Aside from the most important man in Federation history, of course, Miles O'Brien. Miles Edward O'Brien. It's no wonder that Robert Picard was so bitter in the TNG episode Family. Neither Jean-Luc nor his parents seem to remember he exists at all.
I know, where was he?
In these ever-present flashbacks. And while I can buy the mental illness may be an issue in the future, surely a husband, even an old-fashioned one like Maurice, would know better than to simply lock away a loved one in a basement for their protection.
Thank you.
So Voyager got a lot of stick for declawing the Borg. What will Star Trek Picard's legacy be for completely neutering them? So, a couple of things there.
Yeah.
I felt they could have played that out better with, I don't think it was the basement. I think it was just a room in the house, but I definitely get his point there. I think that it would have been awesome or not awesome, but better if he would have locked her in there and be like, okay, show a conversation of him with the doctor saying he'll be there tomorrow because he's dealing with something. And, just maybe stay in there with her and keep her calm until the morning. And then he falls asleep and Picard gets in there. I don't know. They could have done that differently other than husband locks wife in room.
It was really bad. It reflected really poorly on him, especially after the conversation he had with her where he's like, you seem better. And she was like, I'm lying, obviously. And he was like,
I've been spitting my pills in the toilet.
Accept it. Yeah, exactly. I've been saving them up for a special event. Okay. Yeah, she very clearly was not okay. And he very clearly just decided he didn't care.
And his brother, Robert, I think is quite a bit older than him. So he could have been off.
Out of the
who
house.
Knows what. I don't think he's intricate to this storyline, but anytime you're retconning, it's going to get a little messy. And I don't know that story. I didn't say much about it because I know he was going to bring it up, and Jeremy also will talk about it. It just, I don't know how it ties into what the story that they're telling. It's a weird decision.
It's a strange decision. Will Flora says Picard remembering his mother's death and how he suppressed the memory made for good TV, and putting the crew in a dire situation seemed, emphasis on seemed, to raise the stakes a little and give us some drama. With all that being said, we're defeating the Borg with the power of friendship now? What is this, an anime? This season started so great. And then it's like the writers had a dartboard of rabbit hole plots to fill in the back half of the season. It's all becoming just cumbersome, I guess. Every episode past the first 3, I find myself asking if a certain turn here or there would have made for a better episode and overall season, and I think that answer is yes. Don't forget that Corey is still walking around waiting to be a Deus Ex Machina to defeat her father, Q, is still powerless somewhere bumbling, and the crew doesn't have a ship to get home. If everyone they announced for next season magically shows up to save them, I might lose it. 5, stupid green lasers to give away your position if the characters in the show were actually competent at combat all the time, instead of when the writers need them to be.
Fair enough.
Yeah, the lasers do give away your position.
Absolutely.
Because the laser works both ways. It points at me, but it's also pointing back at you.
Joselyn, when you point a finger at someone, fingers point. Anyway.
Yeah. Like I said, I believe in the persuasive powers of not being lonely, and that clearly some of these people have never been lonely in their life or something.
Yeah, but they are literally a cyborg that is programmed to do one thing, and that's assimilate other people and beings, and they're getting all of their memories, they're getting all of that stuff for themselves. It's like a drug.
Yeah.
Like you're like, hey, you should give up drugs because they're bad for you. Have you tried eating, I don't know, gluten-free? Like, no, I don't want to eat gluten-free.
Yeah.
I want all the gluten.
It's true. It is a little simple. However, maybe Girardi is being tricked because they did get the ship, and that's what the Borg Queen wanted.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case, but
I don't think it is either.
Could be. Maybe she comes back. I doubt it. I don't think we'll see her till the finale when it's revealed that that helmet is hers on her head to hide her face.
Upsetting.
And she can't talk for some reason.
Upsetting.
I don't know. Barbara Whipple says, the discussion between Agnes and the Queen was interesting, and it was nice to see her assert herself. But to say that the Borg have been destroying planets and assimilating people for hundreds of years, maybe even longer, because they are lonely, is ridiculous. There was a funny moment when Elnor chose a sword to fight with. It's nice he showed up once more.
Yeah. That was fun when he found the sword.
Yeah. It's a nice little callback to Elnor. Because that's really, I mean, the sword is his version of the cigar. Like, that's kind of all we know about Elnor, is he grew up with nuns, and he likes to cut off people's heads with swords if they don't choose to live. So
it's true. It's true. William Jenks said, I had more mixed emotions about this episode. I was entertained, but not very satisfied. Maybe the penultimate one is always sort of unsatisfying. That said, they did bring a few things closer to resolution while introducing a few new twists to be resolved in the closer. So let's hope for a good ending. The season started so well. A few random thoughts. In retrospect, is there any particular purpose in having Soong be one of the bad guys except that we get to see Brent Spiner? I like seeing Spiner too, but I don't see why the part couldn't have just been some other random mad scientist not named Soong. Cute Thelma and Louise meets Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid moment with Seven and Raffi, except of course that they survive. I'm down with Girardi going back and forth on us. Alison Pill does a nice job of cueing us on who is talking. My only complaint is a writer-related one. Why did she go all James Bond villain on us and explain where she had put the encryption key? And why couldn't Queenie extract the knowledge from her in the first place? Is it just me, or is Mama Picard's dialogue just a little too Shakespearean, as she's indirectly telling JL she's going to commit suicide? Do people really talk that way? Would Hollow Elnor have to look around the ship to find the weapon he wanted? Wouldn't he already know? Normally, I'm fine with the cuts between A and B stories, but they were distracting in the first third of the episode. I refuse to believe that the Picard show is going to make it to several seasons of TNG and none of Voyager or DS9 took place. Therefore, it cannot be that the Borg are going to get all reasonable on us. Fear not, my friends who are worried about the Borg going soft. Finally, a nit that I pick every so often. The only reason you see the path line of lasers is due partial reflection or refraction of the collimated beam? Collimated beam, maybe that's what you say it. Think about any presentation you've ever been in where they used a laser pointer. In perfectly clean air or vacuum, you would only see the surface reflection. In the chateau scenes, they did it more or less right, showing us the dust reflection. In the pristine air of the ship, though, suddenly we see much brighter, clean green lines, which makes absolutely no sense at all unless there's always an invisible fog in there. If anyone cares, that green is the same green as in common laser pointers. It's 532 nm wavelength from the doubling of an ND YAG laser. Yeah, that's what I thought it was too. At first, Jordan, I thought maybe it was the 517 nm wavelength, but I stand corrected. It's actually the 532.
Mistake. There's a 1064 nm as well, which I guess is just a doubling of the 532.
I think so. Yeah, I've heard of that. I think most of them were built in Atlanta, Georgia in 2013. And so they have this problem where they kind of combust. Anyway, summing it up, William Jenks gives it a 6. 6 episodes since the last really, really good one.
Ooh. Might not be too, I'd say at least 3 episodes for sure. For me anyways. I looked up YAG lasers a little bit. And there's a process, I think Jeremy would be most interested in this. There's a process, they're using a lot of things, I believe fiber optic, but one thing that caught my eye is a process called laser peening. I don't know. I don't know what that does.
I'll leave that to the
imagination. Yeah. Tom Paris might have something to say about that.
Penal.
I'm going to ask that everyone keep their laser peen in their pants, please. I don't need to see your laser.
Keep the laser away from your.
I'm not okay with laser peening. Just so everybody
Paul
knows.
Pinelli says nothing about laser peening. He says, "What the hell is going on here?" He sounds like a confused Picard. What's going on here? Who are you?
Who are?
He says, "What's going
Where's
on here?"
my mama?
I try to stay silent on the new show because I know I'll come across like an old man on his porch yelling at kids to get off his lawn. But can Paramount please throw a few million at Ronald D. Moore or Ira Stephen Bear to give us something good? Sorry, just had to get that off my chest. I'll fade back into the darkness now. So, yeah, we've not heard much from Paul Pinelli on the newer show. I can understand, especially if you're not watching every week, just coming in and watching this episode, it would, and maybe he is watching every week. I don't know, but there's definitely something with the writing going on that there's a nugget of a good idea here, but it is stretched out too long, and I feel like they've dropped the ball on a lot of things, and they don't fully understand the enormity of the canon of Star Trek and how long it's been on. And something like the Borg just kind of taking them from being this major villain, which it took Voyager like 26 episodes to kind of lower them down a few pegs.
Wean that down, yeah.
But they're trying to just be like, oh, Borg Queen lonely. Maybe I'll not assimilate people in the same way. Maybe I'll ask first if they want to be assimilated and listen to their feelings. Like, that's just such a weird thing to do. So
it's a weird thing to do.
I don't know. I'm hoping Strange New Worlds will bring back a lot of fans who maybe don't enjoy either Picard or Discovery, and is much more true to that kind of episodic feel that a lot of people I think are missing out on in Star Trek and in other shows. So, but it's the same writing team, so
yeah,
mostly.
Kevin Lung says, so Boimler actually did it first. And a great story to boot. Looking forward to the last episode even more now. Kevin liked it.
He did? It's a Lower Decks reference. And Lower Decks, hopefully, we'll have a season later this year. Maybe next season. And I guess
talk about a Star Trek show I'm excited for is Lower Decks. Mm-hmm. That show hits it out of the park.
It's good. And it can play with canon in ways that, is not going to make fans crazy for the most part if they're watching that show, because they know what they're watching, and it can have fun with Star Trek, and it's just I'm glad it exists in the Star Trek universe.
It's pretty great. I made Sean watch it with me, and he doesn't get any of it at all.
Does he still think it's funny though?
Well, at times he'll laugh.
Yeah.
Here, it's a two-pronged problem. Yes. One, he has no reference point. He's not a Star Trek person. He doesn't watch Star Trek, and unless I force it on him. And secondly,
You tried locking him in your basement and just making him watch it?
I have. It's very difficult. His foot's always getting stuck in the stage we have down there. And then secondly, when he does laugh, I'm always laughing harder. And then I'm worried he's not fully getting the joke. So then I try to explain it to him, which of course makes it not funny at all. So, you know, I'm mostly the problem there.
Okay, James Heath says, a Borg queen that can be reasoned with? No. Just no.
Ah. James Heath likes his Borg queens unreasonable.
I kind of agree.
Chris Rowell. I don't know, Chris, and I'm sorry. Also,
Rowell?
Kevin, yeah, please correct me if I'm saying your name wrong. I would really love to say it right. Chris Rowell says, I have really enjoyed this season and have developed a serious pill problem. That is all. Chris!
Somebody's to lock Chris in a room.
Oh my goodness! Same, dude. I'm with you there.
Jeremy Reed says, the biggest pro I have this week is the weighted context it gives Jean-Luc's brief encounter with his mother in Season 1's episode where no one has gone before. Other than that, I don't want to say too much because I do not wish to add any more negativity. I find myself no longer engaged with the plot and therefore not much is resonating with me. With depression and some mental illness in my family, the end result of Picard's mother saddens me in a gross way. That will probably prevent me from really ever watching this episode again. Thank God Strange New Worlds is right around the corner. I need brightness in my trek now more than ever. I'll give it a 5. Too dark of an episode to even think of something funny to insert here.
You know what? Jeremy, I know we touched on this earlier in the episode about why mental health always has to be some sad woman who hangs herself. And to Jeremy's point, it is quite an old trope in storytelling to develop, especially a female character, through just being tragic and just being sad for no reason, you know, because they don't take the time to really flesh that out for her. And so it is a bit of a disservice that we're using this woman and her tragedy also to develop Picard's character, which
doesn't need
developing. We know him already. So he's right. It's a really traumatic and also triggering choice for them to make, and I'm not sure why they did.
If only there was something traumatic that happened in Picard's past that could somehow tie to the Borg in some way that we could also do backstory on. Like, holy crap, it's right there.
It's right
it's like
there.
Me looking for something in the fridge. It's right there.
It's right there. Move the milk slightly to the left. It's directly behind.
No, I'm looking for the milk. It's right there. I just can't see it.
It's in the one in the front. That's just fantastic.
All right, Jocelyn. It's time for us to rate this episode and also see what the fans scored this week's episode and where it ranks in the all-time Star Trek history.
Oh, boy. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, okay, here's the thing. I probably liked it a lot more than I let on. I enjoyed watching it. All the characters were there that I've been asking for, and I got more from characters who have been there but have been underserved. And even though the choices in the grand scheme of things don't really make that much sense, the performances are really great. And so I gave it an 8. I gave it 8 ways we can bring Elnor back for season 3. And I will save all of those for my next time on.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn because I did enjoy it more than the last 3, but like the highs were higher, but the lows were much lower to me
low.
In the way that they do this. And without further context of knowing what's going to happen next week, I'm going to have to give, and like kind of for reasons Jeremy mentioned, like it's just like certain parts of this story and story elements with his mother just don't add anything. And it is just to be sad and like tragic, but like Picard has had so many tragedies. Like most of his family dies in a frickin' fire. Yeah. He was assimilated by the Borg and killed countless thousands of at Wolf 359. Maybe delve into that trauma a little bit because we haven't seen a lot of representation of that. So just baffling decisions to me. I'm
all
befuddled.
across the Star Trek, the new treks. It's all of this repeated trauma and violence.
Yeah, death and trauma.
And death. And I don't know why we're doing this.
I don't either. It's in vogue. I'm going to give it a 6. I'll give it 6 sad queens. The council at our Facebook page, facebook.com/group/Star Trek Wars, give it a average score of a 6.13, bringing the overall score to a 6.71. So, fairly solid outing, higher than the last couple weeks, but leaving a lot to do in the finale. A lot of chess pieces on the board, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But Jocelyn, speaking of next week, what happens next time on Star Trek Picard?
Well, I just feel that the writers could use a little help. They seem to be kind of under the phaser laser light at the moment. So I have devised
How many NM
8.
is that laser?
I think it's a 516, which is very rare.
Oh,
They don't make them anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
So here are 8 ways we can bring Elnor back. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm not content with not having Evan Evagora in these shows anymore. Number 1, keep him on as the emergency combat hologram. Obviously, it's the easiest choice. Number 2, Weekend at Bernie's style him, where they simply dress him up and parade his lifeless body around in various ways to make it seem like he's still alive. Number 3, Gerati Borg, or Barati, or Jorg, as we're calling them, comes back and assimilates his reanimated body, which would then, I mean, he would be a Borg, but that's okay, right? Because he would still be around. Number 4, Gerati Borg absorbs Elnor's consciousness into her own, becoming the polyamorous celebrity couple Jorgnor. So I like that. Number 5, the crew time travels back to just before Elnor got killed to death and saves him, which is something Picard failed to do when his own family burned alive to death. And so, lesson learned. Wasn't going to let that happen twice. Number 6, Ghost Elnor begins haunting Raffi, who must come to terms with her negative attitude from the past, present, and future about pretty much everything and learn the true meaning of Christmas. Number 7, Elnor simply shows up and no explanation is given, but we're also happy to see him that no one questions it. And then finally, number 8, Elnor fights his way through the Klingon underworld because it turns out the Klingons were right about everything and their god is the one true god, and also she's very mean. That is all.
A lot of choices, writers. Jocelyn's done your work for you.
I've done the work.
Go on.
Just, run with it. Free of charge, by the way. Free of charge, all those ideas.
Absolutely. Next time on, kind of in line with something you mentioned, Picard spends his final moments in 2024 installing a fire suppression system throughout the chateau to maybe, I don't know, save his family's life in the future. But then we find out in season 3 that the fire suppression system is actually what malfunctions and causes the fire because we need more trauma in Picard's life. Okay, anyways.
Also, that is one of the truest examples of irony I've ever heard.
Indeed.
Truly ironic.
Irony.
Wow.
So, in honor of Strange New Worlds, I have a new Star Trek idea. And it's actually a semi-serious idea, which is rare for me.
Okay.
So my new show idea, I didn't have time to come up with like a clever name, but I just call it like Star Trek Temporal Investigations. And it would be essentially temporal agents traveling to important moments in time and stopping temporal incursions. Like an example would be maybe stopping Gul Dukat from banging Kira Nerissa's mom. Or if you want to get really weird, maybe they have to allow it to happen because it's part of the timeline. If it doesn't happen, then something terrible, very much like City on the Edge of Forever, where you have to let Ida Keeler die, kind of like First Contact, where, or Past Tense, which is more of like a, Yeah, more of an accident. But like First Contact is a good example where there's more Starfleet officers. They have to make sure that Zephyrin Cochrane makes his launch so that they meet the Vulcans. Like situations like that, I think would be cool. And then you can travel to different periods in Star Trek's history. You could see the Enterprise B. You could travel back to the original series. All kinds of stuff. You could have crossover with old Discovery, season 1 and season 2. You could do a lot of stuff. So it's kind of like Sliders in space with a Star Trek twist.
Okay, so that show, but it's told from the perspective of the office workers at the temporal agency.
Yeah, so like the two guys that show up in Trials and Tribulations. They have like no sense of humor, and they've got their leather suits on, and they're just getting the report from Sisko about what happened.
Right, and then they have like... It's shot documentary style, and then they have their aside. So it's like The Office meets Star Trek.
Yes, yeah. You got that one camera shot, their reactions.
Right, exactly.
Oh man,
meets kind of like that Loki show on Disney.
I've only seen like the first
kind of what that is.
3 episodes. I never actually finished it.
Oh, that's a good show.
It was somewhat interesting. It started off slow, and I think I had like them downloaded on my phone because we were flying from Washington, so that's one of the things I was doing to entertain myself in a super long flight. But then my phone was running out of space, and my phone's like, "Hey, you should delete Loki." I was like, "You're right." So I did. So I could stream it, but in airplane mode, it was one of the other things I had to watch.
Yeah. Well, it starts out not great, and it finishes really strong, super strong.
Excellent. The other thing that we need to kind of discuss before we talk about next week is the 2 Renee Picard's theories. Like, what do you think that means?
Yes.
What do you think they're going to do with that?
All right, here's what I think. And just as a reminder, I'm really bad at this, but I think they have to pretend that she dies. They have to trick everyone into thinking she's dead so that she can complete the mission. So they have to Schrodinger's cat her, essentially. She has to be both alive and dead at the same time. Okay.
Is that to trick you into thinking that she's dead? But then...
Right.
Okay, interesting.
Right.
That could make sense.
That's why one must die and one must go on.
I think that there are a lot of remaining plot that needs to be tied up. And there are a few Chekhov gun situations, or as I called it, Chekhov's ear, where Laura shows she can change her form. By changing her ear to a human ear for so long, but then she like mentions strangely that it takes 8 hours to change back. So I think there's probably a situation where she has to change into Renee Picard and look like her. So there'll be 2 of them or something. Or maybe Renee will die and then Lars has to complete the mission. I don't know. Or maybe they know that she's going to die and Lars, having protecting her whole life, is like, I'm going to take the bullet or the Hyundai engine explosion. So that Renee doesn't have to die and she can live. That's kind of
a
my
good theory.
But we still have a lot of things hanging there. We have the Soong stuff. What's going to happen to him? Soji or Kore is off somewhere. We need to figure out what the heck's going on with her. We have to tie up a lot of loose ends. Like, they may be tied up to the Eleanor thing. And then we have to get back to the future as well. I don't know. I don't know if we're going to explore any other trauma in Picard's past. There's Teresa and her son. What the heck's going on there? I don't know. There's a lot of ground to cover, and we still have to introduce, kind of lead into season 3 in some capacity. So it'll be interesting. I will be shocked if they can pull this off in a very satisfactory way. I would hope it's a longer episode so that they can actually play out everything. And we have Q somewhere, just still not sure what's going on with him.
Hanging out.
We have the FBI agent as well, who they brought in. And that's all he does. That is
do something about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's going to be a mess, I think. But I don't know. It could be a beautiful mess. We'll see.
Yeah.
Oh, man. But Joselyn, we have a lot to look forward to next week. We have the finale of Picard. We have the series premiere of Strange New Worlds, and we'll be back next week to break it all down. Anything you want to talk about before we go?
No, that's it. I'm excited and crossing my fingers that Paramount Plus will continue to work until we are I'm like all the way through the Strange New Worlds pilot episode because I'm excited about that.
I know someone asked on the Facebook page which episode people were going to watch first, which I'm going to finish off. I'm definitely, obviously, super excited to watch Strange New Worlds, and I've kind of talked about that, but I want to finish off Picard and have that finality and kind of have that out of my head, and then start the new show. I would love to watch Strange New Worlds first, but then watching that and then going and doing Picard, I think the best thing to do for me is to finish Picard, then watch Strange New Worlds, because I'll probably watch it twice. So I'm going to watch it initially, just enjoy it, and then I'll watch it a second time and kind of take my notes and do all that. So,
agreed.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to that. We will return next week to review the 10th and final episode of Picard Season 2. Until then, computer and program. Penal